everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Books and Mortar podcast with me, your host, Rizia, where we talk about the books that build us. I have to tell you that I am surprised that I am still doing this. It's like, we tend to not really have a lot of follow through or conviction to follow through. And I am one of those people. I never thought I would be, but here we are. So I sometimes have trouble following through or sticking to something. But here I am. I think 15 episodes later, 16 episodes, and we're still going strong. So I'm pretty thrilled about it. I hope you are too. But yeah, I'm really enjoying doing this, and I'm hoping it's going to still go on for a little while. So the book that I am reviewing today is called A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. So it's part of a trilogy that is called the Shades of Magic trilogy, and A Darker Shade is obviously number one, right? Because that's where you start. So V.E. Schwab is a woman, just so you know. Her name is Victoria. And I really love this trilogy. It's a reread for me. So this is the second time I'm reading it. And some people say that it's madness to reread a book. Those people are wrong. Okay. Their opinion is wrong. But it's such an amazing title, right? A Darker Shade of Magic. It's the first in a trilogy, like I said. And I'm rereading all three of them, right? So the others have equally incredible titles. You have A Gathering of Shadows, and then the third one is called A Conjuring of Light. I mean, these titles immediately make you feel something, don't they? It's the sense of impending doom, and then suddenly this hope, right? I love it. Okay, so let me read you the synopsis at the back of the book. Kell is one of the last travelers, magicians with a rare ability to travel between parallel universes connected by one magical city. There's Grey London, without magic, and ruled by the Mad King George III. Red London, where magic is revered and where Kell was raised alongside the heir to the empire. White London, where people fight to control the remaining magic, and magic fights back. And once there was Black London. So the story follows Kell, who, as the synopsis says, is part of this dying breed of magician called Antari. And he is able to travel between the different Londons. So only Antari are able to do this. And while the city of London seems to exist in all of these worlds, that is the only city that they have in common. The rest of the world is completely different, like the continents and the countries. It's Grey London, the mundane one. That seems to be Earth as we know it, of course. So Kell comes from Red London. It's beautiful there, it's vibrant, it's full of flowers, and it has a scent which Kell apparently carries with him when he travels and precedes him entering a room. I think it's roses. Yeah? So he's easily distinguishable as an Antari because one of his eyes is pitch black, like the iris, and conjunctiva and everything. So in Red London, he is actually quite revered by the populace. Whenever they see him, they bow and say, Mas Evan, which means blessed one. So Kell has been raised by the royal family, the King Maxim and Queen Amira Maresh and their son Rui, but he's not a blood relative of theirs. In fact, Kell doesn't actually know where he came from. And while the royal family treats him as their own and Rui sees him as a brother, he can't help but feel like a possession rather than family. He doesn't even know his real name. He has a knife that's this relic of his previous life, and on it are monogrammed the letters KL, and he thinks that's where his name Kell came from. He's very fond of Ree though, and he would do anything for him. In spite of his doubts, he says that Ree would be very upset if he knew that he felt this way, because Ree really does see him like a brother. Hey, he loves Kell. So you can see that he really struggles with a sense of belonging. So he's not only Antari, he's not the only one. There's a second one in White London named Holland. So Holland is actually under the control of the rulers of White London. They are these twins named Athos and Astrid Dane, who are awful tyrants who rule White London through fear and cruelty. So Holland is bound to do their will whether he wants to or not. And even though he's cold and unyielding, Kell has a soft spot for him because they're two of a kind. So I think Kell feels a sense of belonging with Holland. So what's the deal with Black London, right? So Black London had a lot of magic, but the magic there then started to feed on the people, and it essentially consumed the entire place, and it threatened to burst through and consume the other worlds as well. So it was sealed off. the Danes ruling White London are not huge fans of Red London because they feel that Red London abandoned them and used them as a buffer between themselves and Black London, which they did, right? They absolutely did. So you can imagine that they're not exactly besties. So the Londons appear in a sequence, right? That's why I'm saying that Red London used White London as a buffer. They appear in sequence, and Kell has to move through one to get to the next. So he explains it like a stack of paper, right? If you create a hole or a door in one, and then you move to the next, and then you move to the next, and so on. So to create this door between worlds, which is only something Antari can do, he has to use his blood because that's where his magic is. It's in his blood. Some thought that magic came from the mind, others the soul, or the heart, or the will. But Cal knew it came from the blood. Blood was magic made manifest. There it thrived, and there it poisoned. Cal had seen what happened when power warred the body, watched it darken the veins of corrupted men, turning their blood from crimson to black. If red was the color of magic in balance, of harmony between power and humanity, then black was the color of magic without balance, without order, without restraint. As an Antari, Cal was made of both balance and chaos. The blood in his veins, like the Isle of Red London, ran a shimmering, healthy crimson, while his right eye was the color of spilled ink, a glistening black. So by this description, you can understand what Black London was, right? So Kell uses his blood to draw a symbol, and he requires a talisman from the London to which he's going, and then he's able to pass through the wall or whatever surface he drew this symbol on. And when he does this, he says the command Astravars. I love it, right? He has different commands for different spells, and he travels between red, grey, and white London to deliver messages between the rulers, just like updates of goings on in red London, like newsletters. But he's the courier, right? So honestly, no one is really bothered with grey London. Like King George gets pity letters, to be honest, but he's really fascinated by Cal, who humors him when King George is in a state to be humored. So Cal has a secret, right? He's a trader or collector, and he has a secret room in Red London that he rents where he keeps all of his trinkets. So there's a law that says that you cannot bring items from one London to another, except for the talismans that he uses to travel. So guys living dangerously, hey? He uses a tavern in Grey London called the Stone's Throw to conduct his trade business. So there's something special about the Stone's Throw. It's present in all three Londons. It goes by different names, but there is a tavern in the exact location in all three Londons, and Cal calls it a fixed point. So on his latest trip to Grey London is where the story starts, and he gets a package from a woman that has to be delivered to Red London, apparently to a sick relative. So he opens the package and he discovers a black stone inside with a mark on it called Vitari, which is the word for magic, the existence of magic, the creation of magic. He takes the stone with him, but it doesn't sit well with Cal because the stone makes him a bit nervous. And when he takes it to the delivery address, he's attacked. So these guys are coming at him, and he shouts, as we all would, "Stop!" But in his case, it actually seems to work, and time slowed down. There was black smoke then emanating from the stone, and whatever it touched then seemed to freeze. So had the power somehow been summoned by his blood? But he hadn't given a blood command, hadn't done anything but say stop. The stone had done the rest, which was impossible. Even with the strongest elemental magic, one had to focus on the form they wanted it to take. But Cal hadn't envisioned the frozen shell, which meant the stone didn't simply follow an order. It interpreted. It created. Was this the way magic had worked in Black London? Without walls, without rules, without anything but want and will? It sounds like AI, hey? So AI doesn't simply follow an order, it interprets. But I don't think that AI can create. I don't think in the true sense of the word, right? So anyway, so you can see how the stone would be incredibly dangerous, right? So the stone with its ability to interpret its user's intentions, and maybe not the way you actually intended. So Cal was bashed up a bit, but he hears more pursuers coming, so he decides to travel to Grey London because they can't follow him there, right? Clever boy. And he's in pretty bad shape, right? Pretty much collapsing in the street. And then he gets pickpocketed and the stone is gone. Of all the ways to lose the stone, he gets pickpocketed. And this is where we meet the lovely thief, Delilah Bard. Lila's motto is, if it's worth having, it's worth taking. She's a pickpocket and she's pretty good at it. And her dearest ambition is to captain a ship and be out of London. She lives in Grey London, right? To see something, anything, to have an adventure. So she's the one who pickpockets poor Kell, and she inadvertently ends up with the stone. So Kell is Antari, though, so he manages to track her down by a handkerchief that she gave him during like her pickpocketing ruse, the sleight of hand thing. And he was able to create a door directly to where she was using this item, and it happened to be at her room in the stone's throw. But like he's not in great shape and he just collapses because I think the magic took it out of him. So, that's not very intimidating. Anyway, when he comes to, they have a chat about magic and Antari because by now she's seen his black eye and she plays around with the stone, like much to Kell's severe dismay. And she conjured up a Kell as a joke using the stone, so like another Kell. But when she tries to dispel him, this conjured Kell turns aggressive and he tries to attack them. But thank goodness, real Kell manages to get rid of him with Antari magic. So you can imagine he's not like exactly pleased with Lila right now. After like yet another altercation, he finds himself passed out in Lila's room for a second time in the same night. And when he comes to once more, she insists that he explain the stone to her and why it seems to be in such high demand. And like at this point, I think she deserves to know, right? So Cal explains Black London to her, and he tells her that the magic in Black London grew incredibly strong and started using the humans as vessels, burning up their lives in the process. They were conduits for its will, and through them, magic twisted whim into reality, blurring the lines, breaking them down, creating and destroying and corrupting everything. And when this happened, the other three worlds retreated and locked their doors to prevent the plague from spreading. He left out the part where it was Red London that retreated and sealed itself off from the others, leaving White London to fend against Black by themselves. So this isolated the cities from each other, and they started to diverge, but no one knows what actually happened to Black London after it was sealed off, because no one's obviously been back there. So all relics from Black London in other worlds were found and destroyed. And White London took this very seriously, and like they even eradicated people they thought were touched by Black London's magic, including Antari, which is why the Antari are so rare now. And the fact that the stone seems to have originated from Black London, it shouldn't actually exist. It needs to go back because it has no balance. It's pure magic, no humanity. And Cal decides that he's going to take it back to Black London, and Lila, of course, declares that she's going to go with him. "Aren't you afraid of dying?" he asked Lila now. She looked at him as if it were a strange question, and then she shook her head. "Death comes for everyone," she said simply. "I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of dying here." She swept her hand over the room, the tavern, the city. "I'd rather die on an adventure than live standing still." So this was something similar from the Empire of the Damned, where Gabriel says, "Burn bright, burn brief, but burn. Like, live your life with passion, seek adventure, see the world, do something. Burn even if your flame is brief." I think like you're more motivated to take that advice in your 20s than in your 30s. Like in your 30s, burning your flame means like binge watching a new series on Netflix in your pajamas and then going to sleep early. Or is like that just me? But in all fairness, like both Lila and Gabriel have life or death situations on their hands. So the risks they're taking are like substantially larger. So anyway, Cal gives in and they go to Red London together. So his concern is that because she's not Antari, she shouldn't actually be able to move through the doors. But she argues that the stone would assist her, and it turns out that she was right. I don't know how sure she was, but she was lucky. The only problem is that although they went through the doorway together, they didn't come out the other side together. They were separated. And this is now obviously a problem because Lila has the stone with her. Like, there's something weird about the stone because, like, it seems to call out to Kell, like it's attracted to him. Probably because of his Antari magic, right? So using the stone's magic also seems to come at a cost to him. It seems to, like, take over him bit by bit. And, like, the more he uses it, the further its magic spreads within him. So he has to be careful. Maybe then, it's not such a bad thing that Lila has the stone. So Cal arrived where he intended, but Lila ended up at a festival that was being held that day in honor of Prince Ree's birthday. But before she can get herself into too much trouble, Cal finds her using her handkerchief that he still has to create a doorway to her. So he uses the same trick, right? So thank goodness he does, though, because trouble seems to follow Lila around. And this is where she finds out that Cal is a prince, or royalty, sort of. "I'm not a member of the royal family," he snapped. "I belong to them." Lila's forehead crinkled. What do you mean? They own me, he said, cringing at the words. I'm a possession, a trinket. So you see, I grew up in the palace, but it is not my home. I was raised by the royals, but they're not my family, not by blood. I have worth to them, and so they keep me, but that's not the same as belonging. The words burned when he spoke them. He knew he wasn't being fair to the king and queen, who trusted him, who treated him with warmth, if not love, or to Ree, who had always looked on him as a brother. But it was true, wasn't it? As much as it pained him, for all his caring and for theirs, the fact remained he was a weapon, a shield, a tool to be used. He was not a prince, he was not a son. You poor thing, Lila said coldly, pushing him away. What do you want? Pity? You won't find it from me. Cal clenched his jaw. I didn't. You have a house, if not a home, she spat. You have people who care for you, if not about you. You may not have everything you want, but I'd wager you have everything you could ever need, and you have the audacity to claim it all forfeit because it's not love. Love doesn't keep us from freezing to death, Cal, she continued, or starving, or being knifed for the contents in our pocket. Love doesn't buy us anything. So be glad for what you have and who you have, because you may want for things, but you need for nothing. And for the first time, Kell saw Lila, not as she wanted to be, but as she was. A frightened, albeit clever girl trying desperately to stay alive. One who had likely frozen and starved and fought and almost certainly killed to hold on to some semblance of life, guarding it like a candle in a harsh wind. So some much needed perspective for Kell from Lila there. That was intense, yeah. So moving on with the story, they need to get to Black London, right? But to get there, they need to first go through White London. And Cal's not keen on this because it seems as though the Dane twins are after him and they set Holland, the other Antari, to chase him down. So I mentioned that it was the prince's birthday, right? And Cal should obviously have been at the celebrations, but he doesn't want to go back to the palace and explain what's happening with the stone and everything because he's the one who kind of like put everyone in extreme danger because of his like trading and collecting things from other Londons. So, like better just to tell them after, if there is an after. But of course, the royal family has noticed that Cal has been gone for an unusually long time, and they put out missing notices around the city. So this makes sneaking around very difficult for him, and of course, eventually someone alerts the guards as to his whereabouts. The problem is they drug him in the carriage on the way back to the palace. I'm guessing it was chloroform. Right? Like, ish, poor Cal though. Lila's a smart cookie though, because she notices something about the guards, right? Their eyes seem to be kind of shimmering, like there's some magic going on there. So she goes off to rescue Cal again. She seems pretty fond of him though, like she rescues him a lot, even though she doesn't really understand why she's doing it. So Lila manages to get herself an outfit fit for a royal ball. And of course, she pickpockets an invitation of one of the young ladies attending. And that's how she gets into the palace to look for Cal. So when she is announced, she has to go and greet her hosts, the king and queen. And as she looks at them, she notices that same shimmer in their eyes that she noticed in the guard who took Cal. And she also thinks that the way they're speaking is like a little bit strange, very hollow and emotionless. So she starts thinking that something bigger is probably going on here. In the meantime, though, Cal has been taken into the palace as a prisoner, which irks him greatly, and he finds himself in Ree's room. So Ree asks him where he's been, and he tells him that he's been through that he's brought extreme danger into their city, and he asks him where it is. So it seems as though Ree knows what's going on, right? So Cal doesn't want to tell him, and then Ree asks him where the stone is. And Cal tells him, but I didn't tell you that it was a stone. Yikes! What? It's Astrid Dane. She's like taken over Ree's body with a charm that she'd put on Holland, and that she'd had Holland delivered to him like a while ago, and he's wearing it. So like Ree's not the brightest bulb in the house, right? Luckily he's good looking. So the Ree who is now being controlled by Astrid Dane starts beating on Kell to get him to confess where the stone is, but stoic guy doesn't give in. So Astrid/Ree then tells him that they've taken over Ree's body because they plan on conquering Red London and ruling both white and red, and it's easier to topple empires from within than to storm the walls. I mean, like, it's a good strategy, right? You can't fault her for that. So Astrid slash Ree is beating on Kell and like Delilah barges in. Yeah, go Lila. The issue is obviously that Kell doesn't want to hurt Ree because it's his brother, but that doesn't mean that Astrid wouldn't hurt Ree if she really wanted to. So she removes the possession charm from around his neck and she stabs him at the same time. So now Ree is like in mortal danger. And the two of them manage to escape with his body, and Cal takes them to the London Sanctuary. And this is the place where he studied magic under Master Tyrion, where he said they can find refuge for Ree. And this is where Cal does something super heroic, but almost like potentially really stupid. He saves Ree's life, which is the heroic part, but he does it by linking their lives, which is the kind of stupid part. So he does this using the stone, and essentially it means now that as long as Cal lives, Ree will live too, but they share each other's pain. So if Cal is getting beaten up somewhere, wherever Ree is, he's going to feel that pain as well. So that's not the best. But like Cal would do anything for Ree, even if he says that he doesn't really consider him a brother. So as a result of like doing such intense magic, I think the stone seems to have bound itself to Cal. And this is where Lila finds out that Cal never actually intended to come back from Black London. He tells her that he can't just throw the stone through the door. He actually has to move through the door into Black London, and he doesn't know if he would be able to come back. So Lila's obviously pretty shocked. And she was like, so you were just going to let me follow you? And he was like, no, I was just going to leave you here. And that doesn't seem to go down well with her either. So she insists that she wants to go with him. And like, remember, Cal has to first go to White London to get to Black London. And he also has to find, yikes, the other half of the stone. So while Astrid was controlling Ree's body, she told him that her brother had found the stone whole and it had been broken in half. So they actually still have the other half of the stone, and they're probably not going to use it for anything warm and fluffy. So Lila wants to go with him because she feels that if he's on his own, he won't succeed. And I mean, like, given how many times she's actually saved him now, she's probably not wrong. So the two of them move through the tunnels under the sanctuary back into the city center, and they see that they see the missing posters for Cal have now turned into wanted posters. Cal is being blamed for Ree's disappearance. So he creates a doorway in the wall, and they have to walk through, but like at the last moment, Cal is pulled back by Holland, who's finally caught up to him. So Lila has moved through though, and she's a bit nervous to have arrived in White London by herself. She feels like something's not quite right, and she like just feels uneasy, right? So back in Red London, though, we're ready for a showdown before the two Antari. And Cal doesn't want to fight him because he feels a kinship with Holland, right? But I don't think it's reciprocated. If it is, Holland can't act on it because of his bond with the Danes. So, like, now they're talking some smack. Holland goes, do you know what makes you weak? Said Holland. You've never had to be strong. You've never had to try. You've never had to fight. And you've certainly never had to fight for your life. But tonight, that changes, Cal. Tonight, if you do not fight, you will die. And if you, so thank goodness Cal cuts him off by attacking because like that had the potential to just go on in circles, yeah. So they fight, right? I'm not going to go into like heavy detail here. You can read about it, but yay, Cal wins. So he's the definitive winner, actually. He kills Holland. He also has this feeling, though, that Holland knew that he was going to kill him. And he saw the last attack coming, and he just wanted out from his servitude to the Danes. And I think he might have been grateful to Cal for killing him. But Cal felt like he couldn't just leave Holland there, so he picks his body up and he carries it with him to White London. And luckily, he comes out right where Lila is. And with Holland, they make their way to the palace. So, of course, there's like another showdown here, right? The final scenes. Cal goes to face Athos and Lila goes to face Astrid. So I'm not going to tell you how they win, but I mean, we know that they win, right? Why would I want to read it otherwise if they lose? And Cal has the brilliant idea then to send the stones with Holland's body into Black London, and he and Lila go back to Red London, where Cal is promptly arrested. And after everything, poor guy. So he has to explain himself now to the king and queen, and he tells them how he bound Ree's life to his. And then he vaguely threatens them by saying that as long as he lives, Ree does too. So they release him, and he goes off to bring Ree home. So I'm giving you the main storyline here, right? But there's a lot of other details in the book that you can still discover if you'd like to give it a read. And I really recommend that you do. If you enjoy fantasy, this is a great fantasy book. It is not I don't feel like it's high fantasy like Brandon Sanderson, Patrick Rothfuss, Raymond Feist, David Gemmell high fantasy, but it's still fantasy. And it's just a little bit more digestible, especially if you've never read high fantasy before, but you're interested in reading fantasy. So I would say like this is a nice like segue into it. So Cal and Lila go their separate ways, but you know that they have to meet again, right? I really like the two of them. Lila balances Cal out like really well because Cal is very broody, and I feel like if she wasn't there, it would have been a very boring book. So she really brings some life into it. So I'm going to move on to reading A Gathering of Shadows now, so that you don't have to wait too long between reviews for the series. So this particular one, A Darker Shade of Magic, was rated 4.05 on Goodreads, which is not too shabby. It's not always available in bookstores because it's relatively old, but you can find them. So go and have a look. Otherwise, they can order it for you, obviously, or you can find it online. So V.E. Schwab has written quite a few other books as well. And they're also well rated on Goodreads, but some of them sounded pretty scary, so I haven't read them because I'm a huge wimp and then I would have to sleep with the lights on. So her last one, her latest one that was released last year in 2024 is called The Fragile Threads of Power. It's again, what a lovely title. Like, I don't know, does she name these books? She's really good at it. And it's a continuation of the world of Shades of Magic. And I really loved this book. It's some people didn't like it because they said that they didn't enjoy that she brought back the characters. I liked it because firstly I love the characters, and secondly it gave me more of a feel of continuation rather than starting a new story in a world that you know. I feel like if you do that without the original characters, like you risk losing your audience because we associate that place or that world with those characters so much. That's how I feel. I don't know. Obviously, other people might feel differently, but that's how I feel. So I like it if we have some of the older characters as well, especially the main characters, because I just feel like it gives it that continuity for me. So anyway, if V.E. Schwab sounds like she might appeal to you, pick up a book and happy reading. So until next time, that's me, Razia, your host, and this is the Books and Mortar podcast where we talk about, listen to, I'm killing it today, aren't I? Where we talk about the books that build us. Until next time, thanks so much. Bye.